Hello, today I have my March 2026 haul. This month I got 3 books, all from the same Barnes & Noble trip, and I am excited to show you them. So firstly, I read this book a little while ago and wanted to get my own copy of it because I read it from the library, and rarely does that happen nowadays where I read a book from the library and then want my own copy of it, regardless of how much I love it. But I do think that's more likely to happen with nonfiction, which this book is, because then it's got information that I may want to look back at and reference, and in this case it has photos, and that is Yoko by David Sheff. Now, I didn't think I would get this on that trip, but it's in paperback. The book was released a year ago. I didn't know it was already in paperback, but I think that was recent, so it was cheaper than it would have been to get it in hardcover, and now I own this book, which is very nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed this biography. So of all 3 books I got, this is the only one I had already read, but it is nice to own it now. I've already talked about and reviewed this book on my channel, but as I usually do with hauls, I will read the synopsis and the author bio. The synopsis says, an intimate and revelatory biography of Yoko Ono from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Beautiful Boy. John Lennon once described Yoko Ono as the world's most famous unknown artist. Everybody knows her name, but no one knows what she does. She has been important to history only insofar as she has impacted Lennon. Throughout her life, Yoko has been a caricature, a curiosity, and often a villain, an inscrutable seductress, manipulating con artist, and caterwauling fraud. The Lennon/Beatles saga is one of the greatest stories ever told, but Yoko's part has been missing. Hidden in the Beatles' formidable shadow, further obscured by misogyny and racism, this definitive biography of Yoko Ono's life will change that. In this account, Yoko Ono takes center stage. Yoko's life, independent of Lennon, was an amazing journey. Yoko spans from her birth to wealthy parents in pre-war Tokyo to her harrowing experience as a child during the war and her arrival in the avant-garde art scenes in New York City, Tokyo, Kyoto, and London. It delves into her groundbreaking art, music, feminism, and activism. We see how she coped under the most intense, relentless, and cynical microscope, as she was falsely vilified for the most heinous cultural crime imaginable, breaking up the greatest rock and roll band in history. And the About the Author says David Sheff is the author of multiple books, including the #1 New York Times bestselling memoir Beautiful Boy, which was turned into a movie in 2018 starring Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, Wired, Fortune, and elsewhere. His piece for the New York Times, My Addicted Son, received an award from the American Psychological Association for outstanding contribution to advancing the understanding of addictions. I know that this author also has a book that was an interview he did with John Lennon and Yoko Ono shortly before John's death, and that interview was a really long, big interview that he published in a book, so I would like to read that someday as well. And then still on the topic of Yoko Ono, I got a book that was actually by her book Grapefruit. It says a book of instructions and drawings. This is a book that she originally published in the 60s, which contains her instruction poems that she wrote. I find her pretty interesting, and so I think it's nice to own this. I've been reading this, and I don't know if I'd say I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's interesting, it's pretty easy to read. It's a bit strange, but I'm open-minded. Either way, I find it interesting, and I'm glad to own it now. And the last book is Life on the Bridge, Linking My World to Yours as an Autistic Therapist by Kaylin Partlow. Kaylin was a cast member on season 1 of the United States version of Love on the Spectrum, a show I very much love. And this is a new edition of a book that she initially self-published, I think, 2 years ago. This new edition has a new cover. It's a hardcover. The original was just in paperback. This has, I think, 2 new chapters. It has an introduction by the director of Love on the Spectrum. And I had wanted to read her book before this edition came out, but I'm glad that I waited until getting this one because I hadn't gotten it before, and now I have the newer edition, so I think this one looks nicer anyway. Oh, and whenever I do a haul, I do want to show the hardcover books without their dust jacket, so I'll pick up Grapefruit again. So this one doesn't have a whole lot going on underneath the dust jacket. It's blank, but it does have the words in here, and I'm not even sure what I would say this color is. It's kind of a, I mean, it kind of looks orange, but it kind of looks bronze, and I guess I can read the author bio of that one as well. So Grapefruit has a pretty short author bio. It just says, Yoko Ono was born in 1933 in Tokyo, Japan. She was married to John Lennon from 1969 until his death in 1980. Together, the two formed the Plastic Ono Band and spent much of their time on peace and humanitarian efforts. Ono continues her artistic endeavors as a writer, painter, and musician. She lives in New York City. Back to Life on the Bridge. So I've been very excited to get this and read this, and like with Grapefruit, I started reading it the day I got it, and I'm enjoying it so far. I really enjoy Kaylin's online advocacy as well. I like to follow all the main cast members of the show and sometimes some other people, and I think that I follow a lot of autistic or autism-centered pages online, and hers is probably one of my favorites. I think that it's very informational and I'm still learning things I didn't know before. And I think that she is good at explaining things and giving examples. So I'll show you this without the dust jacket. I really like the color scheme of this one. It's a nice white and pink. You can expect to see full reviews of this book and Grapefruit sometime after I am done reading them. I'll read you the author bio on this book. Well, first there is a quote by Aaron R. Hahn, PhD, Department Chair and Professor of Psychology at Furman University, and the quote says, "As a rising star in the field, Partlow is poised to become this generation's Temple Grandin." And the author bio says, following her appearance on the Netflix series Love on the Spectrum, author Kaylin Partlow, RBT, amplified her social media reach, establishing herself as an influential voice in autism understanding and actionable advocacy. Providing clinical autism services through Project Hope Foundation for over 10 years, she has worked with clients spanning different ages and vastly differing levels of ability. Partlow lives in South Carolina with her 2 supportive roommates and her Labrador Finn. Oh, and I should read the synopsis as well. It says, "You've heard from autistic authors, you've heard from therapists. Now hear from one extraordinary young woman who's both. Experience autism from the inside out through a rare fusion of professional skill and personal understanding. Reshape what you know about the autism spectrum and increase your ability to give support." Varied perspectives among autistic individuals, their families, and professionals have often been difficult to reconcile. Now you can bridge that divide with guidance from someone who's lived in multiple worlds. Find immediate action, actionable options to build connections, foster communication, navigate challenges, and enhance interactions. Specific content: autism, what it is, what it isn't, and what are the resulting misunderstandings across the spectrum. Communication: exactly how do you avoid misunderstandings, encourage conversation, and build options for better interaction. Behavior: learn about the origin and mechanics of meltdown, stimming, perseveration, sensory distortion, and other common autistic challenges. Interaction: the struggles are real. Autism enhanced loneliness, social skill deficits, goal setting, and the thorny issues of disability accommodation. Common questions: what are DSM-5 diagnostic levels and why do they matter? What about therapy and ABA or routes to useful advocacy? So this is a book that she wrote. She does talk about her own experience, but I think a lot of this book is information and advice. If you're looking for like some sort of juicy behind the scenes look into her experience on Love on the Spectrum, I don't think that's what this book is. But I think it can be very useful for autistic people or people who know someone who's autistic and wants to better support them and understand them. So there is my little March haul this year. Very thankful for all these books and very excited to share more about them with you in the future. Thank you for watching.